Good morning. This is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and this is an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And we are going to continue our talk about food and behavior. And I think one of the interesting things that people think of immediately when you talk about food and behavior is treats. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to use treats in training and what treats can help you with in training. And certainly, we all have learned that dogs do something we like, we give them a treat. And clicker training is based on giving them the click and the treat and then replacing the treat with just the click until ultimately, oh, Tristan, your scarf is falling apart. Until ultimately they're just performing what you want for the click and then ultimately intermittent clicking. So we can do that same thing with our voice by saying yes or good boy. I am not a huge proponent of clicker training, and I think it's interesting that when I go to rally and agility, everybody there does clicker training except me. Right, Biss? He does what he does for duck treats and pats on the head. So in T-Touch, we explore a lot of information about using treats with training. Because if you have a dog that is absolutely terrified, for instance, you're trying to get a dog who is not good with other dogs to calm down with other dogs, often they're afraid. They're not aggressive or dominant or all the other words dog trainers use. They're usually terrified. A good example of that is a dog I had at my house, this shepherd fluffy mix thing, this very cute dog that the woman got from a shelter, and she thought he wanted to play with other dogs. And so when he saw other dogs, he was literally jumping all over her, shaking, crying, whining, and trying to get between her legs. And she thought for some reason that was his invitation to play. I put a stuffed dog in the yard when he was in the labyrinth, maybe 100 feet or more away from that dog, and his eyes went wide and his ears went back and he held his breath and his whiskers were flat. He was absolutely terrified of a stuffed Jack Russell, which is about this size. And this was a pretty big dog, probably 65 pounds. And it took a while for the woman to see that he was terrified. So what does that have to do with treats? In the case of that dog, in that moment, he would not even eat a treat. He was so scared. And that was the thing that made her realize that he was terrified, because normally he was a dog that would eat anything that came anywhere near him. And so the fact that we were offering him high quality treats, even cheese, and he wouldn't eat it, made her think, oh yeah, maybe he is absolutely terrified. So when your dog is that scared, A, you shouldn't give them treats because they may choke on it. And B, that's a signal to you that you need to do something else to intervene. So she was coming here for a while. She's a nice client. So she knew T-Touch, and we worked on the dog's ears and mouth, and we put wraps on him to give him a sense of his body. We kept him in the labyrinth. We worked him in and out and around the labyrinth quite a bit. Eventually, maybe in 3 sessions, we were able to get the stuffed dog within 2 feet of him, and he was reaching out and exploring and sniffing towards the stuffed dog, but still really afraid, still like running back to his mom. And at that point, he would eat treats. And so then we could start giving him treats. Now, people will say, but he hasn't played nicely with the other dog. Why is he getting a treat? But what the treats were doing in this case, after he was calm enough to understand and learn, it helped engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have 2 aspects of our nervous system. The sympathetic, which is the stress response, that fight, flight, faint. There's 5 parts of that. And then the parasympathetic is the peaceful part of your nervous system. And that's the part that allows you to, as we say in the horse world, rest and digest. So the fact that the dog was in that calmer state, and you need to be calm to learn, because we had engaged his parasympathetic system by feeding him, and that is highly connected to the mouth and chewing and relaxing, because remember, parasympathetic is rest and digest. So if you're resting and digesting, you're pretty peaceful. And we see that in zebras. They see a lion come, they run really fast and they get away, and then they go right back to eating. So they have the ability to modulate between those 2 parts of their nervous systems pretty effectively. Dogs that are under a lot of stress living with us or like this dog, terrified of other dogs, are not able to modulate between those two systems so well. So we can use food to help change their behavior, to help them be calm in a situation so that they can determine how they want to proceed, which is usually in the land of T-touch, calmly thinking, showing calming signals, licking, chewing, blinking, ears in a different place, eyes more relaxed, not bugging out, posture more relaxed. And so we can use food to engage all of those calming signs when the dog is at a point where he can eat food. So I think that, in that regard, food has, or whatever treats have, a huge impact on your dog's behavior. I mean, a lot of things that we have seen that are just absolute miracles in T-touch land have been as a result of introducing food appropriately in addition to our other training techniques in order to help that dog learn and be able to do what we're asking him to do. So in that way, food is intimately related to improving behavior. Another thing that I can say about treats and behavior, and this could be a whole separate talk, Art of Racing in the Rain is coming out. I know, I'm going to go see it either today or tomorrow. I'm very excited. I think it's one of the better dog books I've read. I was not a fan of some of those other ones, but this movie looks good. So anyway, the other thing I like to do with dogs is put a row of things on the floor and see which one they like the most. So you might put down a broccoli, a carrot, a couple of different kinds of treats, a piece of meat, a cheese. Let the dog out of the other room, have him come in, see which one he eats first, which one he ignores, which one he likes the most. Do that a couple of different times with the same treats rearranged to see if you have, a good trial there, or whether he's just eating the first thing he comes to. And you will start to observe, if you do this 3 or 4 times over the course of a week, each day or every other day, you'll start to see what he really does like. Once he knows there's a pile of treats and you're not going to take them away from him, he will start to be more discriminating. What's the point of doing this? You will find out what treats really matter to your dog. And you can do this with cats. I highly recommend doing it with other animals, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, because once you know what they like to eat, you can use that as a tool to help you show them what you want them to do. And I certainly use treats, banana chips, to train my rabbits to walk on a leash. You can teach your rabbit to do like bunny agility with jumps and things by luring them with that banana chip. Certainly plenty of people have used clicker training with chickens and rabbits to help train them in addition to the treats. I think with chickens, they just give them whatever they like to eat and they don't ask them. But chickens are really smart. You can teach them a lot of things, and they certainly have learned how to play pianos and play different songs, so as we've seen. So once you know what the, in the training world, high value treat is, I consider it the preferred food. But once you figure that out, you can use that information to help your dog learn how to do all kinds of things. Now, Tristan, for instance, is having a little situation. He was absolutely terrified at the dog show in June of the teeter-totter. When it came down and banged, it scared the pants off of him. When I see how much this has injured his abilities in some areas, I am shocked that he came back to me and he finished the course, and that he went up the catwalk and the A-frame as well as he did, because those two things look very much like a teeter. So we're at dog agility class last week, and what happens? I asked him to walk up the catwalk, which he has, or dog walk as they call it, and he has never not done that. He's very brave. I mean, they're up to my head, and he's a little tiny dog. I'm just amazed that dogs do this. And certainly you get a German Shepherd or a big dog on there, and his feet barely fit two next to each other on how narrow it is. I think we've made that a little too hard, but they all seem to do it just fine. They can run right on it, and only once have I seen a dog fall off of it, and that was my dog Comet, and he fell onto me, so I was able to catch him. So Tristan did not want to go up the catwalk because he was afraid that it was a teeter. And I had to pick him up and put him on the top of it near the second downside so that he knew that it wasn't going to bang and he could see the bottom on the floor. And then I had to use duck treats, and of course I was doing T-touch on his ears and his legs and his back to try to encourage him to relax up there. And when I had just tried to lure him up there with duck, he had no parts of it because he was so scared. So once you know what the dog really wants to eat, it's going to help you understand how hard something is that you're asking them to do. So I was asking him to go up this catwalk and he couldn't do it. He was so scared. And so, we have other techniques to work with, and I sure as heck don't even ask him to go on an A-frame most of the time because they're very steep. They're set up for these big dogs, and they're very tall, and he's little, and he's a Corgi, so he's long. I do not want to put all that pressure on his spine when he's coming down those things, even though he likes them. But I didn't even ask him to do that. And I sure as heck am not having him do any teeters but the little one in my backyard, and I'm holding it so it doesn't bang. Even though that one's really rickety and makes a lot of noise, it's only maybe 6 or 4 feet high at the high end when it's up, and he's used to it. It's his teeter. And I think I might even put carpet on the top of it or something so it seems like a new element, and see how he likes it. But he's doing fairly well with that one. He's not super happy about it, but I can put duck treats on it and lure him up there. So when you know what your dog really wants and he won't do what you're asking, like walking on the catwalk at dog school, I know his level of anxiety is very high at that point. So that's why knowing what treats they like can be really helpful. And, you might just think, oh, I have a duck treat. Maybe he really wants a cheese today. But you know what? When he did not want to go up that catwalk, cheese, chicken, turkey, nothing was going to make him do it. And I didn't want to make him do it because then I'm just trying to force him to do something when he's scared. And that's not going to help him learn. And a huge idea in T-Touch and learning in general is that you can't learn when you're scared. So this is why I've had struggles with calculus for most of my adult life trying to do it, because my calculus teacher in high school would have you doing problems on the board, and then he would scream at you and throw chalk at you when you were doing things wrong. And the wrong might not be like doing the problem wrong. It might be adding 3 and 5 and getting 7. And so because you're so nervous when you were up there. And I like have a little bit of PTSD around calculus because I'm jumpy when I'm doing it. I'm so afraid he's going to yell at me. So that was not a good way to learn. And meanwhile, I had a physics teacher who was very relaxed. He had been in the Vietnam War. He had some chemical help with his relaxation, let's say. And he was very chill. He would just sit back on the 2 back legs of his chair and just kind of talk to us like physics was the easiest thing in the world. And I love physics. And to this day, I'm very good at physics. So I am my personal self, an example of how being relaxed when you're learning can really improve your memory, your ability to think, your rationale, and your ability to do work. And so this is what's happened with our dogs that we do in T-Touch, because they're relaxed when they're learning. And you can see as we're taking them through the confidence course and getting closer to dogs that they were scared of, the smile on their faces, and they're panting and they're happy and they're wagging and they're looking at you like, am I doing what you want? Because dogs really want to do what we want them to do. So in that regard, treats are a huge component of developing and enhancing and teaching good behavior, or what we would like our dogs to do. And it's a miracle they do anything we want them to do, I think. I mean, why would they really? But they like us, and they're herd animals, pack animals, and they want to be part of a group. Wolves are not successful hunters when they're alone. They need a pack. And so this dog wants to be part of a pack, and he wants to do what I need him to do because that is in his DNA and ours as humans. And that's one of the things we love about dogs. So that is what I have to say about treats and behavior. So we will be back for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi tomorrow at 9:30-ish. Sunday I'm going way out to the Central Mass area for this Corgi picnic party. So I will be driving at any of the times I would do this. I will try to do something live from the picnic, depending on who's there. There's a woman that I'd like to interview who is a judge for a bunch of different performance events. So talking to her about that would be interesting if she's got a minute. She's doing a lot of stuff while she's out there. Thanks, Carol. You have a wonderful day too. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And if you have any friends that might be interested in these little Facebook Lives, please direct them to this page. I'm trying to build my audience, and I I'm not doing them as often as I did because now I'm at my educator job often 3 times a week instead of 2. But I would like to build the audience some more. Also, just an FYI, and I will do a whole talk on this, I'm teaching a dog craniosacral class the last weekend in September. It's 4 days long, Thursday to Sunday. So spread the word about that. There is a post on this page about it, and I will be creating another event post after the Corgi picnic. So if you are interested in learning dog cranial work, say hi to your fans in Japan. Hi in Japan. Awesome. I know there's Corgi people in Japan, tons of them. So anyway, if anybody wants to come to do this cranial class, it's right near the Hartford airport. It's like a half an hour away from here if you're flying from far away. There is public transportation if you fly to Boston and want to bus, train, whatever out this way. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're doing it at my house because the place I was going to do it fell through. So it's a great area to come to, and September will be just beautiful here. So thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.